What if I told you there's a powerful mathematical tool you use almost every single day, and you probably don't even realize you're doing it? It's kind of a secret ingredient, right? It helps you perfect your recipes, figure out the best shopping deals. It's everywhere. So today, let's uncover this hidden math.
Okay, so think about this for a second. You've got your favorite recipe, it serves 4 people, but tonight, 10 guests are coming over. Yikes. You know you need more of everything, but how much more? How do you scale it up so it tastes just as amazing as the original?
Well, that whole process of figuring out the ingredients might feel like some kind of kitchen magic, but I promise you, it's not magic at all. It's math. And honestly, it's one of the most fundamental and useful concepts you can possibly master. So, what is this incredible tool we're talking about? It's called a ratio. And really, a ratio is just the language we use to make these kinds of everyday comparisons. It's that simple. At its heart, a ratio is incredibly simple. It just compares 2 things. That's it. How much sugar to flour in a cake? How many miles per gallon for your car? It's all about that direct comparison between 2 numbers.
And writing it down is super easy. We just use a colon. So if you have 2 boys and 3 girls, the ratio of boys to girls is just 2:3. Now, that seems pretty straightforward, right? But there are a couple of key places where things can get a little tricky if you're not paying attention.
So if you really want to master ratios, you've got to know the 2 golden rules. Seriously, think of these as your secret weapons for avoiding the most common mistakes people make. And look, I'm not just making this up. It turns out that a whopping 90% of all errors and ratio problems happen because people forget the 2 points we're about to cover. So yeah, this next part, it's absolutely crucial. All right, rule number 1, and this is a big one: order matters a lot. The order of the words in the question tells you the order of the numbers. So boys to girls is 2 to 3. But if you flip it and say girls to boys, the ratio becomes 3 to 2. They mean completely different things. Whatever is mentioned first comes first in the ratio. Simple as that. And here's this second big trap, the one that catches so many people. The units you're comparing have to be the same. I mean, you can't compare apples to oranges, right? Well, you can't compare centimeters to meters directly either. It just won't work. So how do you fix it? Well, it's actually pretty easy. You just convert one of the units so they match up. In this case, we'll turn those 2 meters into 200 centimeters. Now that they're both in centimeters, you can write the correct ratio, 50 to 200. See? Now we're comparing like with like. But wait, we're not quite done yet. Just like you'd simplify a fraction, you always want to simplify a ratio down to its smallest terms. 50 to 200 can be divided by 50 on both sides, and that simplifies down to 1 to 4. And that tells us for every 1 unit of the first thing, there are exactly 4 units of the second. Much cleaner. Okay, so that's a ratio, a simple comparison. But what happens when you take 2 ratios and set them equal to each other? Well, then you get something even more powerful. You get a proportion. And this is where we turn a basic comparison into a predictive tool. So a proportion is just a statement saying 2 ratios are equal. Let's go back to our recipe. If the ratio of flour to sugar in your small batch is the same as it is in a large batch, then those 2 ratios form a proportion. And that equality is what lets us scale things perfectly. And this right here is the key that unlocks all of its power. We'll call it the golden formula. If 2 ratios are equal, like A to B equals C to D, then you can cross-multiply. The product of the 2 outside numbers, A and D, will always equal the product of the 2 inside numbers, B and C. This little formula is your secret weapon. All right, enough with the theory. Let's see how this stuff actually works in the real world. We're going to tackle a couple of classic problems and put these ideas into practice. Let's get our hands dirty. Okay, first up, a classic business scenario. You've got 2 partners, let's call them Ahmed and Fatima, and they need to split a profit of 12,000 rupees. It's not a 50-50 split, though. They're splitting it in a ratio of 3 to 5. The question is, how much does Fatima, the second partner, actually get? For a sharing problem like this, there's a really neat method. First, you just add the parts of the ratio together. So 3 plus 5 gives us 8 total parts. Then you take the total amount, that's $12,000, and divide it by those 8 parts. That tells you the value of a single part, which is 1,500. Since Fatima gets 5 parts, you just multiply 5 by 1,500. And boom, there's our answer. Fatima's share of the profit is 7,500 rupees. See?
It's just a logical, step-by-step process. No guesswork involved.
Okay, now let's go back to where we started, the kitchen. Here's our recipe puzzle. If a recipe for 4 people needs 200 grams of flour, how much flour do we need for 10 people? This is a perfect job for our proportion formula.
So here's how we set it up. We know the ratio of people to flour has to be equal. So 4 is to 200 as 10 is to what? We'll call that unknown amount x. Now we just use our golden formula. Multiply the outer terms, 4 and x, and set them equal to the inner terms, 210. That gives us 4x equals 2,000. Do a little division, and we found our x.
And the answer is 500 grams. This really shows you just how powerful proportion is. You can use this method to perfectly scale that recipe for any number of people. It's a total game changer.
Whew, we've covered a lot of ground, but it really all boils down to just a few core ideas. Let's do a super quick recap of the most important takeaways.
Okay, first, a ratio is a comparison. And remember, order and units are everything. Got it? Good. Second, a proportion is just 2 ratios that are equal to each other. Third, when you see a sharing problem, your first thought should be find the value of one part. And finally, for scaling problems like our recipe, that golden formula, that's your new best friend.
And now to wrap things up, a final challenge to put your new skills to the test. Using everything we've just covered, can you solve this map problem? It combines ratios, proportions, and that all-important rule about units. Give it a shot. You now have all the tools you need. Thanks for diving in with me.